Hello and season's greetings. So it's Stephen here from the Leadership Loft. So today, a very short video. This is not scripted, so it's probably going to be a little bit rambling. I do apologise. But I wanted to finish the year on the topic of stories. Now, obviously, this time of year there is the nativity story. It's important to many Christians and other people embedded in that culture. But also I wanted to just talk about stories as a way to get your message across. It's something that I've been interested in for some time. When I was doing my degree, I did my degree late in life. I was in my mid-40s by the time I'd finished it. And no, in fact, I was 50 by the time I'd finished it. I started at 44. Crumbs. Anyway, in my last year, we had to do our final dissertation. And I did an experimental design where I got two groups and I got some of them to listen to information, facts, data, that sort of thing. And then I gave them a test. And then in the second group, I gave them little stories, little vignettes of things that had happened to people with facts embedded. I then compared the two quizzes. What about the people who just heard the facts? How much did they remember versus the people who had stories? What I found was that statistically speaking, the people who had listened to the stories with the facts embedded seemed to remember more than the people who just had the facts alone. And I think that's very interesting. Now, this work was never published. It's something I wouldn't mind repeating at some point and doing it properly, but the fact was that it didn't really surprise me, and in fact it was the hypothesis that I'd really proposed, was that if you tell people information which is part of a story, it's much more effective than if you just give them data or facts and figures. Now, we're coming up to Christmas time, and Christmas itself is based around a story, and all sorts of religious stories, whether it be Christian, Islam, or many other religions, use stories as a way to help people remember important facts, things that religion wants people to remember. And we've also in the UK had a new Prime Minister. We've got a new government, in fact, a Labour government. And one of the criticisms that they're experiencing at the moment is that they fail to tell a story. Now, there is pushback against this, and the government say, well, we're not about gimmicks. We don't want to be all about gimmicks. We just want to deliver for people. And okay, that's fair enough. I'm not going to get into the politics of all of this, but I just want to say that of course it's important to deliver, and time will tell with any government whether they do that or not. But it is also important to tell a story about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and importantly to create a vision for where you're going. All stories have a basic narrative around having a vision, trying to get somewhere, having a struggle along the way, so we can anticipate there'll be difficulties, and then overcoming those difficulties to go to the final destination. This is a very familiar way of telling a story. And I think that this is a really important tool that as managers and leaders we have within our teams. We can say to people it's all about hitting the numbers, but we can also explain why it's important that we deliver for the customer, and that this is the way that we want to run our team. This is the sort of team we are, and this is why we want to have this future that's going to look like this and sound like this, and we're going to be this. By creating this expectation and telling a story, we help people to really understand it, and it makes sense to us. And this is no surprise, because storytelling is a key way in which we as human beings make sense of the world. I would argue it's the primary way that we make sense of the world. We string together what's happening into a coherent story, and that fits in with our own story and our own lives. So storytelling is very important for leaders and managers. I'm going to talk more about this next year. So 2025, there'll be more from the Leadership Loft. There'll be more from the podcast. So please tune in however you do that. Join the page, follow the group. Don't forget to check out the podcast, and I'll see you again next year. So have a lovely holidays. If you don't get a chance to have time off because you might be working, then I hope you get time off afterwards. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, and see you next year. Bye for now.